Look, new angle. You like it? Okay, not bad. Yeah, I'm repping right there. You know who I'm repping? The greatest franchise in the history of sports. I'm not backing away from that statement. Your and mine, Los Angeles Lakers, going after number 17 tonight. So we got a hard out at 6 p.m. Marley, don't mess it up. Marley's producing. We got a hard out at 6. Oh, look at the Laker banner fell. That could be bad. Uh-oh, we better start the show. I'm a Venice, California-born, Los Angeles-based sports fan. One that has played, coached, announced, and promoted sports my whole life. My love affair with sports started in my own backyard and has led me to this podcast. Thanks to the support of the Amateur Athletic Union in East Bay, I'm excited to bring you Sports Stories with Denny Lennon. Coming to you live from Los Angeles. We're in the shadow of LAX. It's the top-rated video podcast in the Centinela Adobe Corridor. It's where we share a wall with the Korean United Methodist, and you can see St. Jerome Church from our back porch. We're in the 7428 studio where Jimbo and Marley run the show, and Buck kicks back until he's got to kick it out. It's SSDL Live at 5 on YouTube.
Coming to you live from the world-famous 7428 studio. It's the top-rated video podcast in the Centinela Adobe Corridor. It's Sports Stories with Denny Lennon.
Yeah, you like that? Sam Lagana, the voice of Sophie Stadium. Sophia Loren? SoFi Stadium. Yep, the voice of SoFi Stadium introduced me to my own show. You know, we're only about 2 miles from that. Here we are at the Sentinel. Marley fixed that. Whew, that was tough. Hey, how about this? Dodgers, National League Championship Series. Lakers, probably going to wrap up number 17 tonight. Rams, 3-1. I'm wearing my Rams in the military version, right? Because my guest today, Erick Hellwig. Okay, he's hilarious. And Erick is a Navy brat. Marley, Lakers are falling apart on us. All right. Hey, is my family here? How about my St. Mark people, my St. Bernard people, my VBC, my AAU people? Is everybody in? Let's do this. Make sure you get involved in the live chat if that's what you want to do. How about top 5 states outside of California coming strong? That would be Pennsylvania, Florida, Missouri, Texas, and OH. That's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. Okay, we better look at some stuff and let's see. Man, we are just not treating the Lakers right. Luckily, that's not a USA flag. All right, what we got going? Okay, recap of this week. Hey, on Tuesdays, we go cover Never Seen L.A. Those are Jonas Never's murals at Never, 1959. That's right. Utah, give me 2. That was great. That's a great one in Culver City. We love that one. That's right where the scene was shot. And so we went and covered that one. Every Tuesday, Never Seen L.A. We put it out as soon as we can. Wednesday, we had a little bit of a roundtable going. Chris LeBron from New York City, Randy Rosenblum, the legendary announcer, and Carlos Haro, our high school boys expert. We talked New York City basketball players, high school basketball players, and we talked L.A. high school basketball players. Came off pretty good. I was on Chris LeBron's podcast recently. Hey, Thursday, we dropped Dave Epperson. He is, along with his wife, the founder of the Volleyball Festival. It's the sporting event that changed the world of youth sports. Okay, SSDL dope. That means whenever I go on somebody else's podcast, I was on Brandon Sports Talk. That's my boy Brandon right there. Forget what he asked me. He asked me about building an empire. We should bring that one up. He did. He said, how do you go about empiring or something to that? Hey, I was on Bench Warmers and Burners. That just came out today. So you can check those out. And that was last night. That's what we were doing. And so we were on that one last night. Got a chance to talk about my Lakers for a while, growing up in Venice. Tonight, Erick Hellwig. I'm pumped for this one. This is going to be fun. All right. What do we got next, Marley?
Let's talk about your Twitter poll.
Oh, yeah, Twitter. You know, right when I went on with Josh Lozano last night on his podcast, he said, if you don't follow Denny on Twitter, you should. He's got some great stuff going, right? I have a very light following considering the solid content. I do a lot of polls, and right now up there, Karch and St. John, I'm asking, what do you think should be Game 7 for those two to determine who's the greatest beach volleyball player in history, male division? And so why don't you chime in on that one? You know what else I put up was AD versus AD. Anthony Davis in the 1970s, right? He played football and baseball at USC. He won 5 national titles, 3 in baseball, 2 in football. He was the Notre Dame killer. Okay, that was Anthony Davis in the 70s. And how about AD right now? Now, it's only his first year with the Lakers, but who's your favorite AD in LA? I know he could win a title tonight, and that's going to be big, but you can't overlook what Anthony Davis did in the 70s. He was unreal. He was great. The Notre Dame killer. All right. Oh, yeah. And the other one I put up was Bellinger's catch the other night for the Dodgers against the Padres, where he took away Tatis home run, right? Versus Willie Mays, the Say Hey Kid, in the Polo Grounds, 1954, off the bat of Vic Wertz when he ran that one down. How about, can we look at those? Let's look at those. This is one of my Twitter polls. So, all right, whose catch was better? Here's the Say Hey Kid.
Left-hander Vic Wertz up and left-hander Don Little ready to go. Here's the pitch to Wertz. Here's a long drive to deep center field. Mays back to the wall. Makes an incredible catch. Turns and fires it in. What a catch by Willie Mays.
Lifts his ball to deep center field. Bellinger twisting around. Still going. He's at the wall. He leaps. And he made the catch. Cody Bellinger.
Vote now at Sports Stories DL. How about that catch by Billy the other night? That was unreal. That was such a big play. That might have turned it because then it was a blowout in game 3 and the Dodgers move on. But the Say Hey Kid running that down in the Polo Grounds, that was legit. That was pretty good. All right. Pretty good. What am I saying? That was great. Marley pulled a clip from a show I was on recently. Because we're growing here at Sports Stories, right? Like we are out of control growing. Let's play that, Mar.
That's great. As a business that's looking to go into empiring.
Okay, so see the question? He was asking me for advice to the people that watch him about empiring. Pretty good. Okay, not umpiring, empiring. That's what we do. That's what we do around here, building empires. Okay, I think we caught up on everything because we're going tight. No, we're not. We're leaving it. Oh, yeah. Last week we had Jeff Pearlman, 9-time best-selling author, New York Times best-selling author. This guy's super legit, right? So he comes on his most recent book, 3-Ring Circus, Lakers, about the Kobe, Shaq, Phil Jackson era. And at the end, whenever I have an author on, I have to actually bring somebody on. Well, I read the books, but maybe I don't comprehend as well as 10-year-old Alex Haro. And so Alexandria comes on, and she gets a few questions with my best-selling author. She only comes on for like New York Times bestsellers. And she had one question for Jeff Pearlman. He never got on all of the other shows, Dan Patrick, Colin Cowherd. Let's see what Alexandria has.
Now, this next question, probably not a lot of people asked you. But in your professional opinion, who was a better rapper, Kobe or Shaq?
Question.
Before you answer, my favorite line is, creamy like cheese spread you on my bagel, boom shakalaka.
That's awesome. Wait, so who do you think was the better rapper?
Why don't you answer this first, and I'll give you your opinion. This is all about you.
These are tough questions, so I respect that. I will tell you, I think Shaq was the better rapper. If you go back and look, Shaq did a song with Foosh Snickens called What's Up, Doc? It's a great song. And then later, he did a song. My son Emmett, who's 14, and we have a hip-hop playlist that's about 6 hours. And one of the songs we have on there is a song that Shaq did with Phife Dawg from A Tribe Called Quest. It's one of the best songs on our playlist. So I will go Shaq. I do not think Kobe was a great rapper. He was a much better basketball player. What about you?
I personally like Shaq. And the little line I read, that was also from Shaq.
Awesome. Yeah, we're both Shaq fans.
Brilliant. Hey, that's gone into quadruple figures on Twitter. That's right. Blowing up for us. Anyhow. Okay. Speaking of, that's Carlos's daughter, if you didn't know. Agent Zero, same girl. Cheers to Carlos. We're enjoying. Let's play. Let's go back. Let's throw it back to Vámonos a Casablanca commercial, right? The Box Cobbler's initial entry into things.
Vámonos a Casablanca, vámonos a Casablanca, la comida para la familia. Vámonos a Casablanca, vámonos a Casablanca.
Vámonos a Casablanca. It's a classic. You got to bring that out every once in a while. Thanks, Carlos, for supporting us. Speaking of which, he supported our guest tonight, or my guest, Erick Hellwig. You might have seen him on either on YouTube, on TV. He's a stand-up comedian, but recently he's got a brilliant podcast. It's great. It's called Bring In the Backups, and he goes in depth on backup quarterbacks from the NFL, and it's brilliant. Hey, so hopefully you'll enjoy as much as me. Now, look, I got to tell you this. Erick jumped through several hoops trying to get his computer up and running and able to take on our app that shows you all of this. And he did it. He made every effort available. He made himself available throughout the day to do that. And there must be something about whatever his internet carrier is wouldn't allow. So he's coming to us by phone because, you know, we're kind of legit. We're an empire. So we can bring people in by phone. And here he is. Hi, Erick.
Hey, Denny, what's going on, man?
It's all going on, baby. My Lakers are gonna take number 17 tonight, and I get to talk about my 3-1 Rams right now tonight with you, and about your new podcast, bringing the backups.
Well, Denny, let's start off on a bad foot, man, because the Lakers fans say 17 titles, right?
Mm-hmm.
But those are not all in LA.
Good point, but they're the same franchise. And so, let's say the Eagles move from Vet Stadium to a new stadium, you know.
All right.
Okay, or the Giants might play in New York or New Jersey. They're still the Giants. That's still my Lakers.
Well, let me ask you this. Did you do the same thing for when the Rams left for St. Louis? Did you go St. Louis Rams?
Did I like them at that point? No, and you got me there. I hated them, dude. I hated that they left. I hated them, not hated them, but I was really pissed at them when they went to Anaheim. Like, that really bothered me.
Sure.
And then when they took them to St. Louis, I was like, fine, get out of here. And then when they came back, I said, okay, I welcome you back.
Well, so the Rams won a Super Bowl in St. Louis. So do you say that the LA Rams were Super Bowl champions? You'll take that?
I would say that the Rams are Super Bowl champions. Wasn't that when they tackled the Titans on the goal line?
It was one of the best endings to a Super Bowl in my lifetime.
It was. And again, breaking my heart. When they went to Anaheim, that's when they went to the Super Bowl. They got smoked by the Steelers, but they still went to the Super Bowl, and they played it at the Rose Bowl. So here I grew up in Venice, and they go away from me to Anaheim and then play in Pasadena in the Super Bowl. It I don't know, it confused me.
I'm glad you recovered from it, man. And look, you are definitely in a good position now with LA sports teams, which is nice. I'm not from LA. I moved here 2 years ago, but I always try to, I don't adopt the team where I move, but I always try to respect the fan base where I am. And I'm happy. I'm happy that you guys have stuff to cheer for.
There's relevance here. I know that, and I'm going to get to your podcast in a second because it cracks me up. But I know that you talked about you actually kind of adopted the San Diego Padres because you didn't want to be a front runner and jump on the Dodger bandwagon.
Yeah, I can't. I don't like rooting for teams that always win or teams that traditionally have like larger payrolls, right? Like that's kind of. I'm my podcast doesn't let rooting for backup quarterbacks that have 5 touchdowns and 35 interceptions over a 35-year career. I like rooting for any game I'm on. Like college football is always my favorite because I just go, well, there's always one team that's just completely outmatched. It feels so easy to root for that team.
Right.
I find that much more compelling in sports. So yeah, I'm just a hardcore underdog. So yeah, when I moved to New York, I was like, I'll go Jets because they suck worse than the Giants. Now that I'm here, I'll go Padres. I'll even go Athletics. Although the Athletics had Ricky Henderson in a couple World Series, so like Padres were way shittier. So I was like, give me the Padres.
Give me the Pods. You like your uniforms, right?
Oh my God. Yeah. The poop and piss colors are amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. First off, I mean, the colors they had before last year, where they were just like the navy blue and the gray. I was like, they couldn't have had a more boring color scheme if they were trying to.
Right.
And I was like, you're come on, you're like the fourth most popular team in your state. You have to make a move somewhere. And so for them to go, I love going retro. I'll always go retro. But I mean, they went hard in the paint with poop and piss, and I'm like, dude, sign me up. Sign me up.
They're coming strong with that. Yeah, they were.
Well, and another reason I like them too is, like, I mean, that I know the Dodgers are about to wipe them out here, but I love the nucleus they built in San Diego with their baseball team. Like, they got a fun group. I do have a affinity for the Kansas City Royals, and that just comes from when I was a kid. My dad used to be out in Kansas City in the summers, so we go out there, and there's nothing to do except for me to go watch the Kansas City Royals games when they were the worst team in baseball.
Right.
So I just kind of started rooting for that team, and then obviously followed Hosmer and all of them as they went up and won the World Series in 2015. So when Hosmer went to the Padres, I was like, oh, I was already following him enough to like be rooting for that team. But yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like I picked a good season this year to assign my allegiance to the Padres, because they all of a sudden they're like, all those young pieces are starting to play well.
Yeah, they did, and they didn't. They put up one of the 3 games. They put up a fight against Dodgers, and I'm not hating on them. I thought that was a funny your take on them. Tell me, what was the impetus to start the podcast as far as the theme of it? Bring in the backups. I love it. It's such a good. I like your whole theory on you got to have that niche.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. So I knew I was going to start a podcast because, like a lot of comics, we all started Googling home podcast setup around April of this year, being like, how fucking long are we going to be in our apartments for? So I knew I had that in, like, making a podcast in me, and I was kind of kicking around different ideas. And then I was talking to my buddy, Rob Stern, who's a fellow comedian, and he was like, the thing you have to do with your show, and I know you know this from your show too. He's like, you have to do a podcast about something that you like, because if it's not fun for you, you're going to get bored for it. Even if it's something that audience members like, even if it's something that you think is a cool idea, if it's not something that you do in your spare time, it's not going to last. And as he was saying that, I was on YouTube watching like a backup quarterback clips for Tony Banks, who was like some crappy quarterback in the early 2000s. And I was like, that's what when I'm bored, I go on YouTube and I just look up old guys from when I was a kid, and I like watch them like in their one moment to shine, usually at the end of a 2-14 season. And I was like, I think that's my podcast. And then the more I told people about it, the more excited they would get. But also, I think I started to realize as I've been working on it for the last couple months that there is like a tie-in to what people feel in their own lives. Even if you're not an athlete, the idea of so few people being on like what their plan A is in their life. Everybody's got the dream of what they want, and then the reality of how your life actually settles.
Right.
So I think there's something very relatable to a guy like Jim Sorgi sitting behind Peyton Manning for 15 years. And like, I mean, to me, I think it's just I guess similar to what I was saying about the Padres. It's like, it's so easy to root for those guys when they get their shot. So it ends up being, I feel like every episode I put out is almost like an homage to somebody that never would have had it otherwise.
In your first one, and I respect what you're saying. And also, just so you know, we jumped into this podcast thing, and I don't know if that clip played or not, but I was labeled as an empire builder on other person's podcast. So things are going great. You'll see. You just hang at it long enough, and all of a sudden you're an empire builder. Coy Detmer was the focus of your first episode, and
sure.
And for those who don't know Coy, he was Philadelphia Eagles, which is your favorite team, right?
Yeah, do people not know Coy Detmer? That would be surprising to me.
He
He threw 10 touchdown passes for terrible Eagles teams. Are you sure everybody doesn't know who that is?
I'm pretty sure a few don't. I think they probably know his brother, Ty.
His brother won the Heisman.
Yep.
His brother was still a backup quarterback like him, but I think his brother maybe threw like 20 or 30 touchdowns. Like, he wasn't some great NFL quarterback either. They were both backups. But yeah, Coy was kind of like in his brother's shadow for his whole NFL career. I mean, to me, the likability factor is just off the charts with Coy Detmer.
Yeah.
He really was the man in Philly. I mean, Eagles fans loved him.
Coy and Ty are almost the opposite of the Manning brothers. Like, you got the Manning brothers, right, who started to win Super Bowls, and then you got the two guys who backed up quarterbacks.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I wouldn't go too hard on the Detmer brothers. They play in the NFL, and you're doing a podcast in your garage. So let's take the heat off these guys a little bit, Denny.
Just a
They're
little.
doing all right.
I'll pull back a little. Hey, while we're on the Eagles, I got some stuff from the 70s. Now, I know I got a couple decades on you, and in the 70s, I was loving my Rams when they were still here and they hadn't left me for any city. And
Sure.
So them and the Eagles kind of traded some players back and forth, and you might want to dig in, because I don't know if you remember, but from the Jets came Joe Namath to the Rams, and he played 4 miserable games on those knees, and then he turned it. He went to the bench and never came in again. And does that qualify as a backup if he never came in again?
So, I mean, technically, sure, he was backup at some point. I mean, I can't think of a single quarterback that's never backed up one game in his career. But the way I do it on my podcast is I just go total games played, game started. It's got to be at least 50%.
Okay.
If you spend at least 50% on the bench, you'd qualify. I mean, I'm looking at the photos you're throwing up of Joe Namath with those crazy eyes right now. I mean, it looks like his knees are shattering while they're taking the photo of him. He truly looks like he's in horrific pain. I vaguely remember Namath having more interceptions and touchdowns in his career. Is that true? Do I have that right?
I think you're right about that. And I always argue that he got into the Hall of Fame just based on his party reputation.
Well, this is why he got in the Hall of Fame, because he has the famous, he gave the Men's Warehouse, we're gonna win the Super Bowl, I guarantee it. And that's at a time when there was nobody, there was 2 people covering the NFL, and they interview you for 4 seconds for a paper. Now every player's got their own Instagram story, and there's 30 rap songs that come out about how they're gonna win the next week. So a guarantee means nothing now. But at the time, that was just that probably just felt like such an affront to people to be like, I'm gonna win. Yeah, to just have that move. I think that plus being in New York, I think was enough to just. I mean, yeah, I don't know how I don't know how he's actually in the Hall of Fame. But then people debate Eli Manning shouldn't go in when Eli Manning's numbers just crush Namath.
Right. I know. How can people even? I don't see how they do that to Eli. Now the other thing about Namath, which I think was great, which made that a big thing, is he took that picture with a shirt off by the pool in Miami when he made that declaration that they're going to win, and I think that just blew people's minds.
Yeah, no, he was like the Lady Gaga of the early 70s. Just people were like, this guy's just on another planet. Yeah. Showing 2 male nipples. What do we do? Put him in the Hall of Fame. He must be a genius.
You have to. Okay, so getting back to my 77 year. Now, this is right in between. So your Philadelphia Eagles had Ron Jaworski on them. So Jaws came over from the Rams. And because he was on that Rams team and he was a backup, he came over that way in a big trade, which wasn't supposed to happen. I forget what the details were. I think it violated their contracts, but then they were all like, okay, cool. But also on my Rams at that time, Eric, I have to tell this because one of the people that listened to our show is Sister Martha Raleigh. Now, she was my 8th grade teacher at St. Mark's School in Venice. And she went on to be the principal of the school, and she's a spectacular person. But back in the day, when I was in 7th grade, she was running the confirmation stuff. And you're going to appreciate this. So Marley, put up Isaiah Robertson. Isaiah Robertson, 58 for the Los Angeles Rams, was playing linebacker, and I liked him so much that I wanted to have Isaiah be my confirmation name. And they pushed back against me because they said it has to be like somebody from the New Testament. And I said, but I really want to be a writer. And he was a great Old Testament writer, and I got it through. So you're talking to Denny, Isaiah, Richard Lennon right now.
Oh my goodness. Well, that's a great way to choose a confirmation name.
Yes, I thought so.
I like that. I had to choose. I was raised Catholic too. I had to choose a confirmation name. I chose the guy that got stoned to death. I don't remember. I feel bad now. I don't remember his name. I clearly have not kept up with my Catholicism, as I do not remember the name I was compelled to choose as a child.
Yeah. Well, these things happen. We all come back around, I suppose, at some point. Did you talked about going to Vet Stadium when you were a kid, and I think there was it's such a great time in the NFL. Well, it wasn't great then, but when we look back on it now, it's great memories because they would play multiple sports in these stadiums, and then you would go there, and there was no rules. Like, it was such a lawless community, right? Like Philadelphia, I could only imagine because I knew what was going on at the LA Coliseum, but old Vets must have been something else.
I mean, it really is crazy thinking about some of the experiences I had there when I was a kid. There was a game. So I was born in '85.
Okay.
So I went to a game I want to say it was like early in the '93 season against the Dodgers, Phillies Dodgers, and the game went like 22 innings or something. And it was me, my dad, and my grandfather. And I think we ended up staying for like 18 of the innings. We had to leave because my grandfather he was like, we were putting his life in jeopardy to stay any longer than we did. But I remember by the end, we were like sitting right behind home plate. Like, we started up at like 3 rows from the top of the stadium, just kept moving down. So by inning 17, we're like right up on the umpire and the players. And just listening to the things that Philly fans were screaming. And these are the fans that stayed until 1 a.m. for a meaningless game. I mean, it aged me 35 years. Like, I was 8 years old. I walked out of that game with like back issues. Like, I was fully in my middle age. It was insane. It was insane.
I think so many of us learn an awful lot when we go to our first professional sports games. We learned so many new curse words, so many different types of behavior that could actually happen. And we all go, wow, so you can do that, huh?
I've got the 2 games I remember that game very early on. And then a couple years before that, my dad went to West Point and he took me to it was an Army football game against Colgate, not the toothpaste, the school. Although it could have been the toothpaste. I mean, they were not a very good team.
They were very good.
They're not very good.
They had a bunch of models.
I remember going to that game and being like, "Oh, this is what sports fans are like. They're very like quiet, stoic, honorable men who don't talk very much. That's what a lot of West Point guys are. Like, just kind of like looking off into the distant while a flag kind of waves behind them, like beautifully. But then going to Philly." After that and going to hearing those fans, I was like, oh no, that's definitely not what most sports fans are like.
No.
Most sports fans are barely human animals. The old, I'm sure you must know this. The old Vet had a jail in the stadium. Yeah. Did you know that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd heard that. I never knew if that was true or not, but it sounded right.
It's 100% true.
Oh, I love that.
It's 100% true.
Could you imagine what the behavior was like inside the jail?
I know, like I said, I know, and oddly enough, I've never actually lived in Philly. It's always been, we were moving around a lot as a military family, but that's where my grandparents lived. So we came back there throughout my childhood. But yeah, just going, anytime I've been back to Philly for any team sport, any of the 4 sports, I'm always like, it's not like other places as far as the vitriol, like, Philly fans really take it personally when the team sucks.
Yeah, they do.
Like it's an affront to them. I think I was on Twitter with this the other day, but I'm watching the NFL now, and the Eagles were losing to the Rams actually.
Mm-hmm.
Was it the Rams? Did they play was that game in Philly?
I think they.
I'm trying to remember.
I think they did. Yeah, it's hard to tell where the game is because there's no fans.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I want to say that game was in Philly. It was either the Rams game or the Redskins game. I think it was the Rams though.
You're not supposed to say Redskins ever.
I deeply apologize. Please cancel me. Whoever's listening now, go after me on Twitter. I don't deserve to live.
Anyway, I think Vikings might be next. Just
yeah. No, I was going to say. So I'm watching the Eagles-Rams game, and the Eagles are down by like 13 points in the second quarter, and the fake crowd noise that they pump in, they're still cheering the team, and it totally took me out of it. I'm like, if you're going to make fake Philly crowd noise, they need to be booing if the other team kicks a field goal in the first 3 minutes, the defense is rained boos upon. Like, can we make it a little accurate to the place that we're pretending to be?
I agree. They and they have that another legend or lore is that they booed Santa Claus, and I got a feeling that happened too.
I think that did too. That's so in the past. Now that's like over 50 years ago, though. I feel like we've done way more. I don't resent that people bring up Santa Claus like in defending Philly fans. I'm just like, we've done way more heinous shit in the last like 3 months. Like, can we update our list of things? Like, it's got to be something since 1964 and today.
I do think though that your nickname, the Eagles, and mine, the Rams, are safe. Like, I think we're safe. I don't think it's going to take a few generations until objectifying animals is on everybody's hit list.
Yeah, animalism or something. Some ism that's tied to how dare you take a bird's name. Right. I don't know. I read a really interesting thing that was talking about the Florida State Seminoles, where Florida State they don't even call the Seminoles a mascot. Like, they're just like, we are the Seminoles. They're very tied to the Seminole tribe in Florida, and they have internship programs. And like, all the Seminole leaders are like, no, this is something we're very excited about. And reading that, I was like, oh, there probably was a way that the Washington football team could have used the name Redskins as a thing for good. But it seems like it's got to be like you have to have like a social conscience about what you're doing. Yeah. And obviously, like in everything we know about Daniel Snyder, besides that they run their organization like a fucking Hooters.
Yes, they do. Yes,
like clearly he wasn't doing anything good for any community other than himself. So like that name being gone, Redskins being gone, I'm for that, but I'm not just for blindly taking anything away that mentions a group of people, because there are teams, high schools, colleges that do it the right way, and they should be, supported. If I can get on my soapbox for a minute here, Denny,
go right ahead
on your show. Well, also, I was doing a show recently. I have a bit about the Vikings, being like, somehow that group has really gotten a pass over the years, considering what they're known for.
Right.
But the joke, to do the short version of it, is something about how it's a very rapey name. And then one of the comics came on after me. He was like, yeah, but theoretically, shouldn't the Dolphins change their names too? Because Dolphins have a terrible... I was like, that's actually a very good point. The Dolphins are actually way more rapey than the Vikings. And it continues to this day.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And I, I'm starting to wonder about the Padres, because just taking that name, it's already, but Junipero Serra, he was the one who actually was putting Indians into slave-like mode to build all his missions. And you would think at some point they're going to have to review that name.
Probably.
Yeah, I know. That is going to get me in trouble with the Catholic Youth Organization and the Archdiocese of Los Angeles.
I gotta say, Denny, I like this Minnesota Vikings logo you guys threw up. I know I'm a couple minutes behind on the YouTube feed, but that looks pretty sweet.
Yeah, I love that one. We stole that. We were as a St. Bernard High School Vikings. That's where I played football and basketball and volley at there. And that was the Vikings we stole back in the days when you could steal people's stuff and you didn't get in trouble. And I love the Vikings.
What position did you play?
I was a tight end and an outside backer.
I meant for volleyball.
Like a middle.
I'm just kidding. I didn't even know there were positions in volleyball. Don't you have to rotate?
Yeah, you do have to rotate. Yes.
What position do you play? I played left. I played a little more left this time.
Yes, indeed. Hey, you brought up the Dolphins, and that was, just by happenstance, the house that we moved into when I was really little. It had a sticker of the Miami Dolphins helmet on, like, the bedpost that I inherited, because
Okay.
when you're a family and you move out in those days, you just leave the beds behind. And so
Is that a real thing?
Yeah, well, I guess it was in Venice. That's what happened to me. And so
People just leave there. I guess if you're like running up, if you like witness somebody getting murdered and you have to go into witness protection program,
Yeah.
you leave all your shit.
There was that. But I loved those colors. Like, those colors were great. And so I adopted them as my AFC team. But what really got me was the Dolphin had a helmet on. And I could not have been more impressed as an 8-year-old boy that a Dolphin would actually have a football helmet on. And they recently changed that logo to take off the helmet, and it upset me.
Did they? That is well. I'm looking at the one you have of Tannehill right there, and the Dolphins still got the helmet.
That's
Did they get rid?
I had her pull
That's the old one.
I had her pull. Yeah, that's the old one.
Oh, that's so dumb that they got rid of the helmet wearing Dolphin. I'm fully on board with you that is a travesty.
It is. That bothered me. Now, tell me a little bit about you. I loved your take on uniforms, because you were like, sure, the Raiders got, their manly colors, but I prefer some of these other ones. So can you talk a little bit about the uniforms you like?
Yeah, I mean, look, man, anything on the lighter end of the color spectrum, I'm going to be a fan of. I like anytime there's yellow is used as an accent color.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much always going to do it for me. I mentioned the Chargers. I love the Chargers uniform this year where they've got the yellow pants. Those look pretty sweet. Oh my God, you're doing those horrible Eagles throwbacks where they're the.
We got.
By the way, I know I'm saying I like letter colors, except those weird Eagles throwbacks where they look like a blue and yellow highlighter. I did not like those.
But the creamsicle Buccaneers are all right.
Creamsicle Buccaneers are a good one. The Houston Oilers are a really good one too. Obviously, the Philly Kelly Green I was a big fan of. Yeah, anything from like for me, it's my childhood, so I'm like, early 90s are like my favorite uniforms to throw back to for sure.
Yeah, and I think I'd mentioned this to you at one point, like the UCLA football team, they look beautiful in the Rose Bowl when the sun's setting behind the mountains, and you just see those Kelly blues. Those are pretty nice.
What do you think about the state of Chip Kelly's Bruins right now?
It's rough. It's rough. You dealt with them for a while, didn't you, with your Eagles?
He's a prick. I'm sorry. Like, I do not like that guy at all. I didn't like how he handled the team. There were some, situations that came up while he was here that I thought he just bungled from like a locker room perspective. Mm-hmm. But then it was like, I mean, look, obviously
And we're back. Okay. Good, Mar?
Yeah, I think so.
I think we're good. Okay, we're back in the game, Eric. Like just like a backup.
Look, perfect.
This is perfect. This is like that's just what happens.
Yeah, the version of the podcast we were recording just shattered its clavicle, and now this version is being ushered in to try to close it out.
That's right. Speaking of which, your episode 2 on Charlie Batch, I got a kick out of it. And I got to tell you, I have like a kind of a personal thing because I went to Super Bowl 40 in Detroit with my boy Frank Agnoni. I got to give him a shout out because that was so cool that we got on a red eye after a father-daughter dance we both went to with our daughters and got in because he loves the Steelers. And so we got to Detroit and we got to see that completely penalty flagged Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And then came back, but at least we got to get that in. But then he goes, later on, he goes, hey, you want to go to a home opener? I said, sure. So we went to Pittsburgh, found out Ben wasn't playing because either a combination of a motorcycle accident and an appendicitis or something. And Charlie Batch has the game of his life. And
was that was the Dolphins game, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I remember that game. We talk about that on my podcast. It's like his best game of his career.
Yeah. And when you were talking about it there, I was like, wait a second. I think I was at that game. And I was like, yep, that was it. That was the one.
I liked him a lot when I was a kid. I liked him when he was on the Lions, and I liked him as a backup on Pittsburgh. I thought he's one of those guys that like clearly had ties to the area and liked his situation enough to not pursue starting more. But I almost similar to Nick Foles, I think could have walked from Philly after the Super Bowl if he really wanted to.
Right.
But like sometimes guys are just like, let's just take a year here. My family's happy. It feels like every 2 years, Batch just kept being like, I can see my old house. Yeah. I'm just going to stay here and back up and win a couple Super Bowls not doing anything.
Totally. He's but I always felt when I saw Charlie Batch play that he was starting level. But then I think you made the mention, I think he was with Detroit or something, and Barry Sanders had left, and all of a sudden they made him run.
Yeah, I looked that up after because like I heard that from I can't remember when I do research for my podcast. Research is light. I go on Wikipedia, read stuff for 5 seconds before my guest comes on, and then stumble through the podcast being like, I think they made him a running back. Like it's just like I just did a podcast on the newest episode of my podcast is Cleo Lemon. Okay. Which is going to come out next week. And I've already recorded the podcast on I mentioned like 30 times that Cleo Lemon was on the Berlin Thunder in 2002. Okay. Looked it up after the podcast. Not true at all. Like pulled directly out of my asshole. And I'm like, I could go back and edit it, but I keep mentioning these on the Berlin Thunder during the podcast. Like it's not even related to the conversation. Like my guest is saying something I'm hilarious. I'm like, hang on for a second. Cleo Lemon, Berlin Thunder. Like I was saying it so that I couldn't edit it out later. So my research comes with a huge grain of salt to take. But yeah, with that said, yeah, there was a thing where like Barry Sanders left after Batch's rookie season, and Batch could run, but they kept trying to they would roll him out and get him on bootlegs and stuff, and he was just getting creamed. And like when I looked up, because what I usually do for the YouTube videos I make is I'll like go through all of the plays I can find for the quarterback's career on YouTube and put them together, like I was saying before, like an homage to their career. But every other replay, it's Charlie Batch just getting annihilated. Because nobody can block and nobody respects the run. Like nobody's buying the play action. So I think a lot of his injury woes, which hit him in the last couple of years of Detroit, and then obviously following him in Pittsburgh, I think a lot of that's related to like just the state of the team after Barry Sanders just kind of left. Yeah, abruptly. They weren't prepared for that.
They weren't prepared for that. I was wondering when you watch like the NFL draft now that you got this going, most of us are looking at who's going to be the future Super Bowl quarterback. Are you looking at who's getting drafted that's going to be part of your podcast episodes? Like, oh, that guy's going to make a good backup. He'll make it for a good story.
No, to be honest, it's like for my podcast now, like I'm mostly, I mean, look, if the podcast gets popular and I get 100 episodes in, I'm going to have to start doing newer guys.
Yeah.
But for right now, I'm trying to go with guys that I remember something from like their career when I was watching football. I mean, if I was going to guess what guys are going to be backups, I would say anybody drafted after the 6th round.
I guess so. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the truth is like, I don't know, like I'm looking at a guy like Josh Rosen, where like that's not a guy I would have guessed would have been a backup when he came out, but he's just getting Dwayne Haskins right now is getting the Josh Rosen treatment. Just stretch that out for another 3 years, and that's basically what that dude's career has been.
Yeah.
So like, I think so much of who ends up a backup is not even about somebody's, obviously somewhat related to their ability, but a lot of it's just like life. It's the luck of the circumstance you're in. I was reading about Dwayne Haskins having 3 offensive coordinators in his 13 games so far.
Ooh.
And being like, if you're talking about setting somebody up to succeed or setting somebody up to fail, so much of that is out of the player's hands.
That's what's going on with Sam Darnold at the Jets too.
Totally.
I mean, he just keeps getting a new OC and a new OC, and it's hard to settle in. I mean, that position is hard enough as it stands, but to keep getting a new system and to keep getting a new voice in your ear, that's got to just be tough.
Yeah, and you can compare that to somebody, obviously like, I'll give you wasn't Aaron Rodgers a UCLA Bruin? Do I have that right?
No, he was Cal.
Oh, my. Well,
yeah,
sorry.
You're in the right state. You're good.
I'm close.
Same conference.
Yeah, although I have no idea where those schools are located in California. I know UCLA is close. I don't know where Cal is. Is it actually physically close?
That's like Berkeley, so it's closer to like Oakland, San Francisco.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, but to compare like a situation like Aaron Rodgers, where you get drafted by the Packers, it's the same coach, but Mike McCarthy for his entire time. You're behind Brett Favre for 2 seasons.
Perfect.
Like when you've got the system in place to actually learn it versus just kind of getting thrown to the wolves. I mean, it's hard not to feel for guys that actually do have the talent to do well, like Darnold, but just they're never gonna get like the shake that some people do.
Yeah, and by the time they get a good shake, they're beat up because the team hasn't probably drafted offensive linemen. They've already lost some of their confidence. Any and all of that.
Archie Manning.
Yeah,
Archie Manning's a great example of it. Like, I mean, he stayed with one team, but he just got wrecked.
He ran for his life all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. He constantly ran.
A recent example would be David Carr, who I thought was perfectly capable. But, yeah, I mean, the Texans were an expansion team.
You were talking about, like, I loved how you had your Coy Detmer stuff going. And then you talked about he was like, there was some movie. Was it a lower level movie that was made where the whole thing had to do with
Take this seriously, please. Please.
Yes, I understand. I had a question. You go into these fun facts, and you went in and you wanted to find something fun about Charlie Batch, and all you found out was what a great guy he was.
Yeah, no, I found out what a great guy he is, and on the podcast, I found out that his sister was tragically murdered, and that's what's kept him moving his whole life.
Oh man!
And so I literally, again, similar to saying Cleo Lemon was on the Berlin Thunder my whole podcast. In the Charlie Batch episode, it's the horror that comes over me of being like, oh my God, I can't lightly make fun of this guy now that I know he has the most tragic origin story I've ever heard of anybody in the NFL. So yeah, the lack of research has come back to bite me in the ass multiple times on the podcast. And if you subscribe, you can hear me embarrass myself pretty much every episode.
I think it's brilliant. I think it's so much fun. Now I got to tell you something else. Last week I was happy to talk to Jeff Pearlman, right, the New York Times best-selling author, the current Three Ring Circus author, and his go-to band is Hall & Oates. And then as we were kicking around on the internet, we found your Hall & Oates video, which I could not believe how funny that was. And how long ago did you do that one?
I'm trying to remember the Hall & Oates video. Oh no,
you played John Oates. So
yes, no, I do remember. No, that's old. Yeah, that's old. That's man, you guys went way back.
Yeah, we did.
Sorry. Yeah, no, I remember. What was your question about?
What did you do to get into character John Oates? You look him up on Wikipedia?
No, I did not. The guy directing the sketch was like, "You guys are gay." I was like, "Got it."
That's you guys nailed it. You nailed it.
Like, you're doing coke and you're gay at the end. And action.
How about your most recent one with Death Lives? That one's fun. What is that? Just a YouTube series, or is that something you're pushing a little further? Because I love.
That's been a thing for a decade. Me and my writing partner Chris Aurelio this is back when I was at a theater in New York doing improv and stand-up. We came up with this. We had this show called Welcome to Hell, which was like a talk show in hell, and like all the audience was dead. That was like the theme for it. And one time I was going in to just watch it, and Chris threw me a death cloak and was like, "The guy that was playing death didn't show up. Put this on and hand out these death certificates to the audience." And so I started doing that, and I had so much fun playing the character. I was like, "Hey, next month, let me come on the show and actually do like a bit as Death on the show." And they're like, "All right, whatever." And so we started doing that, and then it kept developing. Where like every show for Welcome to Hell, Death would try some new artistic endeavor. Like I did like beat poetry, he did Shakespeare, he sang Disney songs, he tried stand up, and the bit was always that Death would come on the show and just horrifically eat shit on stage because he's nervous to try something. And then at some point, I think it was maybe 4 years ago, it was right after New Year's, my buddy Chris called me and said, "We're writing a pilot for Death." I was like, "All right." Wrote the pilot. After we wrote it, he's like, "We're shooting it." I'm like, "Okay." We shot it. It gets into some festivals. It starts to get packaged by some company out here in LA.
Ooh.
And then nothing ended up coming out of that, but except for the fact that it just kind of motivated me to keep doing new stuff with that character. So now there's an Instagram page, which you can, and if anybody wants to follow, it's Death Lives TV. You can see him doing stuff.
I love it.
Every day. Yeah, like we did an animated project with him too. It's just kind of like a on the side character. And what's been fun is it's gotten, especially after I got on AGT, that's the big one I did with Death.
Right.
I've had people talking to me about the character, not knowing it's me, which is my favorite thing in the world.
That's brilliant.
Because the makeup is such that like it's not obvious that it's me, but the bit has been out in the world long enough for people to know it without necessarily knowing I'm the one behind it. So
that's great.
Yeah, it's kind of like a fun side project.
That is great. Now I got one. One more. I got to put you on your radar, and that would be Tyrod Taylor of Los Angeles Chargers, right? So he had the starting spot, and he had to take a shot before the game so he could play, and they punctured his lung. The doctor, right?
God.
So then Justin Herbert comes in, and Justin Herbert is no joke. He's very good, and he comes in and he's put up some decent numbers this year, and I don't think he's going back to the bench. So that's a pretty interesting way to become a backup. Is the trainer comes out and he misses on the shot.
Well, that's not the first time that's happened to Tyrod.
It's not
you know that, right? No,
I didn't.
He got replaced by eventually Josh Allen in Buffalo.
Right.
But before that, Nathan Peterman, the guy that threw 5 interceptions in like one quarter, they benched him for Peterman. And there was a guy before that too that I'm not remembering now, but it's been multiple times that Taylor goes to a team to be the starter. They draft somebody younger, and that guy immediately supplants him.
But it didn't come at the hand of a trainer stabbing him with a needle.
His reasons for losing his starting spots are becoming comedically heightened every time. Like I'm sure next time he's gonna like slip on a banana peel or some crazy shit that doesn't even seem like it wouldn't happen in something that's not a cartoon. But no, I really feel for that guy because I think he's a solid player. So yeah, someone's got to trade for Tyrod Taylor, and then the backup quarterback needs to be like. They need to bring back like Steve Berline, just someone that's not going to take his job. Like someone with like spina bifida, just no threat. Let Tyrod start. He's pretty good.
All right, Eric, we're going to certainly put up all of your stuff on our site to make sure people know where to find you. And real cool of you to hang in there today and try to get on with the video, but we had just as much fun having you call in. And congrats, man. The bringing the backups is brilliant. And so is the rest of your stuff on YouTube. So I hope everybody looks you up and enjoys.
Yeah, thanks so much, man. Very quickly, I want to say if people do want to subscribe to the show, make sure to rate and review it if you like it. New shows, that makes a huge difference for us. So yeah, check it out. And yeah, thanks for having me on, man. This has been it's always fun just getting to talk sports and shoot the shit with people.
I love it. All right, thank you, Eric.
All right, brother. Talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon. Okay, that was super fun. He's hilarious. You really you can do yourself a favor, look him up on YouTube and look at some of his stuff. It's hilarious. He's really funny. Okay, we're gonna make that 6, or we're gonna come close to it. Little tribute to the Lakers. Box gobbler. Buck kicks it out, and then we watch number 17 come down. So I was a youngster. That's just me, 8 years old. First Holy Communion, knocking down some hook shots. That's my 72 Lakers right there. The 72 Lakers, love them. Hey, that's the 1980 Lakers when Magic Johnson played all 5 positions. I almost missed that game because I had to work at Baskin-Robbins. I'm pretty sure that's the 82 Lakers right there. I saw that. I actually saw that game at the Forum with Barney Barnes and parked at Hollywood Park. In the mid-'80s, I was an announcer for Women's Pro Beach, and I made a trade with the guy, VIP status. I get to walk through the garden. He was a security guard there. That was fun. I coached this kid in baseball at St. Bernard High School. He happened to be the equipment manager for the Lakers, so he got me tickets throughout the rest of the Showtime era. I made good on my part by making sure all of my teams, including my kids, were Laker fans. And they're happy for it, so much so that we even have a Lakers homemade ornament. Look at the Lakers gear always seems to pop up wherever we are, and we even named our dog Buck Magic Lennon. That's right, we named him after the great Magic Johnson. And he's still kicking. I got a chance to interview my boyhood idol, Jerry West. And eventually my boy took me to a Laker game this year where we saw James pretty much dunk on the entire Sacramento team. We were, of course, saddened by the loss of Kobe Bryant, but we got a chance to go there, put up our favorite words, which was "Save us, Kobe," which he did often. I was at the memorial, was inspired, and been inspired by the murals that surround our city. And so much so that even James Worthy liked one of my tweets. That's right. Big game, James. This is our team, and they're going to be playing tonight. They're going to win it. They are in 5. The Lakers are going to take it, and we're going to hang another banner, even better than that LA Dodger one, because the banner we're going to hang is going to be in Staples, and it's going to be number 17 to tie the Boston Celtics and make Jerry West feel good about this, because he laid the foundation and took a lot of the heat from those Celtics in that regional draft that was completely misguided. That said, Lakers going to do it tonight. Okay, thank you for joining us. Eric was great. We enjoyed him. And we're going to go enjoy our Lakers right now. All right, let's get a little box cobbler and kick it out with Buck. Let's go, Lakers.
Go watch Sports Stories with Denny Lennon. I know you are, but what am I? A little French fry.
Thanks for watching and listening. Sports Stories with Denny Lennon is produced by me, Marley Rice, and Christine Jinbo, and edited by bad boy Bobby McCall. Original music courtesy of Lennon Music Production, and original images courtesy of Sienna Lennon Photography. A big thank you to all of our contributors of the show. Sports Stories with Denny Lennon is a production of Sports Stories, Inc. and available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, or wherever you watch and listen. Make sure you press that subscribe button, give us a review, leave a comment. It will really help us grow the show. And you know what else will help us grow the show? Head on over to patreon.com/Denny Lennon to get some never-before-seen videos, pictures, interviews, and so much more. We are all over social media and constantly sending out clips on Facebook, conducting fun polls on Twitter, going live on Instagram, and more. To find all of our social media links, head on over to sportsstoriespodcast.com. SSDL proudly supports the My Stuff Bags Foundation and the Heroes Movement. Links to how you can support and help these foundations can be found on our website. We also want to give a big thank you to all of our partners of the show. So, as Coach Lennon would say, any questions, comments, or concerns, you can email me, Marley, at info@sportsstoriespodcast.com. We want to thank all of our followers and listeners, and we will see you next time.
Check it out, Buck!